The CEO millionaire thought his daughter had lost her mother, until she returned 8 years later. Kingsley Hawthorne Blackwood never expected his life to shatter at age 23. As the youngest CEO in Boston's competitive tech sector, he thought he had everything figured out. His startup, Quantum Vista Technologies, had just secured its first round of major funding. His beautiful wife Luna Nightingale Blackwood had given birth to their twin daughters Phoenix and River. Their penthouse apartment overlooking the Charles River was a testament to his meteoric rise. But on that crisp October morning 8 years ago, everything changed. He still remembers the morning perfectly, the way the autumn sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, how 3-year-old Phoenix and River were giggling over their breakfast cereals, the smell of Luna's signature lavender perfume lingering in the air. She had kissed him and the girls goodbye, saying she was heading to her morning yoga class before meeting her sister for lunch. Kingsley had been preoccupied with an important investor call scheduled for that afternoon, barely looking up from his laptop as he waved goodbye. If he had known that would be the last time he'd see her, he would have held her tighter, memorized her face one more time, said the words, "I love you," instead of just nodding absently. When Luna didn't return that evening, Kingsley wasn't immediately worried. She often lost track of time when she was with her sister, Celeste. But as night fell and his calls went straight to voicemail, a creeping unease began to settle in his stomach. The twins kept asking for their mommy, their little faces scrunched up with confusion and worry. He called Celeste, only to discover that Luna had never shown up for lunch. His world began to tilt on its axis as he called hospitals, police stations, and friends. No one had seen her. Her car was found abandoned in the yoga studio parking lot, her gym bag still inside. Her wallet, phone, and keys were all there. But Luna had vanished without a trace. The first year without Luna was a blur of police investigations, private detectives, and endless dead ends. Kingsley poured millions into finding her, plastering her face across billboards, newspapers, and social media. The case attracted national attention. How could a wealthy businessman's wife simply disappear in broad daylight? Conspiracy theories flourished online. Some claimed Luna had been kidnapped by corporate rivals trying to destabilize Quantum Vista. Others suggested she had orchestrated her own disappearance, pointing to large cash withdrawals from her personal account in the weeks before she vanished. The most painful theories suggested she had another family, another life, and had chosen to abandon them. Kingsley refused to believe any of it. The Luna he knew would never willingly leave their daughters. Phoenix and River were her world. She'd spent months designing their nursery, insisted on making their baby food from scratch, and kept detailed journals about every milestone. He remembered finding her multiple times in the middle of the night, just watching them sleep with tears of joy in her eyes. No, something terrible must have happened to keep her from her children. As the months turned into years, Kingsley threw himself into two things: raising his daughters and building his empire. Quantum Vista Technologies grew from a promising startup into a technological powerhouse, revolutionizing quantum computing and artificial intelligence. He worked relentlessly, partly to provide the best life possible for his girls, and partly to exhaust himself enough to sleep at night without being haunted by questions about Luna. Phoenix and River grew from confused toddlers into bright, resilient young girls. They were identical in appearance, the same cascade of dark curls, the same striking amber eyes they'd inherited from their mother, but their personalities couldn't have been more different. Phoenix was fierce and protective, always standing up for her sister and questioning everything. River was gentler, more introspective, often losing herself in books and art. Both girls had gaps in their hearts where their mother should have been, but they filled them differently. Phoenix became determined to solve the mystery herself, maintaining a secret notebook of clues about her mother's disappearance. River drew pictures of Luna from old photographs, creating an entire wall of portraits in her bedroom, as if trying to keep her mother's face from fading from memory. By the time the twins turned 11, their lives had settled into a comfortable routine. Kingsley had learned to be both mother and father, scheduling his meetings around school events and never missing a dance recital or science fair. Their penthouse had evolved with them. Gone were the pastel nursery colors and baby toys, replaced by astronomy posters, art supplies, and the latest gaming consoles. The only thing that remained unchanged was Luna's closet, still filled with her clothes and perfumes, preserved like a museum to their past happiness. That spring morning started like any other. Kingsley was helping the girls pack their bags for school while their live-in nanny, Raylan Winters, prepared breakfast. Phoenix was arguing that her science project on quantum entanglement deserved an A+ rather than just an A, while River sketched quietly in her notebook, adding another portrait to her collection. The doorbell rang, unusual for 7:30 a.m., and Raylan went to answer it. The sound that followed would haunt Kingsley forever. A sharp intake of breath, a dropped coffee mug shattering on the marble floor, and Raylan's trembling voice calling his name. He stepped into the foyer and time stopped. There, framed in the doorway, stood Luna. Her hair was shorter, streaked with subtle gray, and her face showed signs of hardship he couldn't begin to understand. But her eyes, those distinctive amber eyes that their daughters had inherited, were exactly the same. The twins, hearing the commotion, came running. Phoenix stopped dead in her tracks, her mouth falling open, while River clutched her sketchbook to her chest like a shield. The woman they'd only known through photographs and stories was suddenly, impossibly real. Luna took a step forward, tears streaming down her face. "My babies," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You've grown so much." Phoenix reacted first, backing away and grabbing her sister's hand. "You're not real," she said firmly, though her voice trembled. "You're dead. Everyone said you must be dead." River just stared, her eyes darting between the portrait in her sketchbook and the living, breathing woman before them. Kingsley stood frozen, his mind refusing to process what his eyes were seeing. 8 years of questions, grief, and anger crashed over him like a tidal wave. Luna remained in the doorway, her hands clasped together as if physically restraining herself from rushing to embrace them. "I know you must have so many questions," she said softly. "I'm here to answer them all. I need you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I did it to protect you. All of you." The silence that followed was deafening. 8 years of absence hung between them like an invisible wall. Kingsley finally found his voice, though it came out hoarse and strange. "Protect us from what?" Luna's answer would change everything they thought they knew about their family, their past, and their future. But before she could speak, Phoenix grabbed River's hand and ran to their room, slamming the door. The sound echoed through the penthouse like a gunshot, making everyone flinch. Kingsley looked at the woman he'd mourned for 8 years, his heart tearing between joy and fury, love and betrayal. Nothing would ever be the same again. If you're enjoying this video and want more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss out on any of the amazing stories/videos we have coming up. Your support really helps the channel grow and keeps us bringing you more of what you love. Thank you. Raylan quietly excused herself, understanding that the family needed privacy, but remained within earshot in case the twins needed her. In the living room, Kingsley and Luna sat on opposite ends of the sofa that had once held so many happy memories of their family cuddled together watching movies. The distance between them felt like miles. Luna's hands shook as she reached into her bag and pulled out a worn leather journal. "Before I explain everything," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I need you to know that I've written to them every single day. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone I imagined they were reaching. I never stopped being their mother in my heart." Kingsley's jaw clenched. "Do you have any idea what it's been like?" he asked, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Having to tell our 3-year-old daughters that mommy wasn't coming home? Watching them cry themselves to sleep? Trying to answer questions I didn't have answers to?" He stood up, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "Do you know how many times Phoenix has asked if you left because she was bad? How many times River has hidden under her bed on Mother's Day?" Luna flinched at each question, tears flowing freely down her face. "I know nothing I say can make up for the pain I've caused," she said. "But Kingsley, if you knew what I was protecting them from." She glanced toward the twins' room, where soft sobbing could be heard through the door. "What I'm still trying to protect them from." "Then tell me," Kingsley demanded, his voice rising. "Tell me what was so terrible that abandoning your family was the only solution." Luna opened her mouth to respond but was interrupted by the sound of small feet. Phoenix stood in the hallway, her face streaked with tears but her expression fierce. "We deserve to know too," she said, her young voice steady despite her tears. "If you're really our mom, you owe us the truth." Behind her, River peered around the corner, clutching her ever-present sketchbook like armor. Luna looked at her daughters, really looked at them, for the first time in 8 years. Phoenix, so brave and demanding just like her father. River, quiet but watchful, absorbing every detail. They were no longer the toddlers she'd left behind, but young girls on the cusp of adolescence. She nodded slowly. "You're right," she said. "You all deserve the truth. But once I tell you, everything will change. Our family won't be the only thing at risk anymore." Phoenix walked into the room, pulling her reluctant sister with her. They sat together in the oversized armchair across from their parents, their hands clasped tightly together. "We're not babies anymore," Phoenix declared. Whatever it is, we can handle it. Luna took a deep breath, clutching her journal like a lifeline. It started 2 months before I disappeared, she began. I discovered something about Quantum Vista's original funding, something that put all our lives in danger. I never meant to find it, but once I did, I couldn't look away. Luna's hands trembled as she opened her journal. Back then, I was helping with the company's bookkeeping. Quantum Vista was growing so fast, and we were all excited about the major funding that had come in. But one night, while reviewing some files, I found irregularities in the transfer documents from our biggest investor, Oracle Dynamics. Kingsley leaned forward, his business instincts kicking in despite the emotional turmoil. Oracle Dynamics? But they were vetted thoroughly. Their CEO, Riker Blackthorne, doesn't exist, Luna cut in. The company was a front for something much darker. They weren't investing in quantum computing for technological advancement, Kingsley. They were using it to develop an AI system capable of infiltrating global security networks. I found encrypted communications about using Quantum Vista's breakthroughs to access military defense systems, banking networks, even nuclear facilities. Phoenix's grip on River's hand tightened. But why didn't you just tell Dad? She asked, her voice small but determined. Luna's eyes filled with fresh tears. Because the night I discovered the truth, I also found out I was being watched. There was a black SUV outside the yoga studio, outside our building, following me everywhere. Then I received this. She pulled a weathered photograph from her journal. It showed 3-year-old Phoenix and River playing in their bedroom, taken through the window of their high-rise apartment. On the back was written a simple message: silence or sacrifice. River gasped softly, burying her face in her sister's shoulder. Kingsley felt the blood drain from his face as the implications hit him. You left to protect them, he whispered. To draw the attention away from us. Luna nodded, her voice breaking. I couldn't risk them hurting you or the girls. These people, they weren't just criminals, they were powerful enough to make anyone disappear. The money they invested was connected to international arms dealing, human trafficking, everything dark and terrible you can imagine. I knew if I went to the authorities, we'd all be in danger. So I did the only thing I could think of. I gathered evidence, encrypted it, and disappeared. For 8 years. Phoenix challenged, though her voice wavered. You couldn't find a way to let us know you were okay? To tell us you loved us? Every form of communication was a risk, Luna explained, wiping her eyes. I had to go deep underground, working with a small group of cybersecurity experts and former intelligence agents. We've spent years building a case, tracking the money, identifying the real people behind Oracle Dynamics. And now? She paused, looking at each of them in turn. Now we finally have enough evidence to expose everything. But I couldn't do it without warning you first, without making sure you were prepared for what's coming. Kingsley stood up abruptly, pacing the room. Are you saying my entire company, everything I've built, is founded on blood money? That I've unknowingly been helping criminals? No, Luna said firmly. You've built something incredible, something that's helped millions of people. They tried to corrupt it, but they failed. The evidence I've gathered proves that Quantum Vista's legitimate work was completely separate from their attempted infiltration. But when this comes out, she looked down at her journal. Everything's going to change. The company will face intense scrutiny. Our family will be in the spotlight. I needed you all to know the truth before it explodes into the public eye. River suddenly spoke up, her quiet voice cutting through the tension. The butterflies, she said, looking at her mother. They were from you, weren't they? Everyone turned to look at her in confusion, but Luna's eyes widened in recognition. You got them? She whispered, her voice thick with emotion. River nodded, pulling out her sketchbook and carefully removing a pressed butterfly wing from between its pages. Every year on our birthday, a blue morpho butterfly would somehow get into our room. Phoenix said it was impossible because they're not native here, but I knew. I knew they meant something. She looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. They were your sign, weren't they? Your way of telling us you were watching over us. Luna covered her mouth with her hand, nodding. I couldn't stay away completely. I worked with a lepidopterist, a butterfly expert, who helped me arrange it. It was dangerous, but I had to find some way to send you a message, even if you didn't understand it at the time. Phoenix's tough exterior cracked slightly. What about the book? The one about twin girls solving mysteries that showed up last Christmas? Was that you too? The Midnight Twins? Luna smiled through her tears. Yes. I wrote it under a pseudonym. Every case the twins solved in that book contained coded messages about where I was and what I was doing. I hoped someday you'd be old enough to understand. Kingsley sank back onto the sofa, overwhelmed. All these years I've been running security sweeps, hiring private investigators, and you were leaving clues right under our noses? There was a hint of admiration mixed with his frustration. I couldn't risk anything more direct, Luna explained. The people we're dealing with have eyes everywhere. Even now, coming here is dangerous. But we're ready to move forward with exposing everything. My team has prepared dumps of evidence to major news outlets, federal agencies, and international organizations. In 48 hours, it all goes public. Phoenix suddenly jumped up. The quantum encryption protocol. That's why you came back now, isn't it? Dad's been all over the news talking about Quantum Vista's new unbreakable encryption system. Luna nodded, impressed by her daughter's insight. Once that system goes live, Oracle Dynamics loses any chance of using Quantum Vista's technology for their plans. The evidence we're releasing will destroy their organization, but your father's encryption protocol will ensure they can never rebuild. River clutched her sketchbook tighter. Are we in danger now? Will they come after us? No, sweetheart, Luna said firmly. My team has arranged protection for all of us. U.S. Marshals are already watching the building. Once the evidence is released, Oracle Dynamics will be too busy dealing with federal agents to worry about retaliation. Kingsley ran his hands over his face. I need to call an emergency board meeting. We'll have to get ahead of this, prepare the company. He trailed off looking at Luna. But first, we need to decide what this means for our family. Before Luna could respond, Phoenix walked over and took her mother's journal. She opened it carefully, running her fingers over the pages of letters her mother had written to them. 8 years, she said softly. 8 years of birthdays and first days of school and nightmares where we needed you. You can't just come back and expect everything to be okay. I know, Luna whispered. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want a chance to try to make things right. River joined her sister, looking at the journal. You really wrote to us every day? Every single day, Luna confirmed. Even when I was running, hiding, gathering evidence. I never stopped thinking about you, loving you, missing you. The family sat in silence, the weight of revelations and possibilities hanging heavy in the air. 8 years of pain and separation collided with understanding and hope, creating something new and fragile between them. If you're enjoying this video and want more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss out on any of the amazing stories/videos we have coming up. Your support really helps the channel grow and keeps us bringing you more of what you love. Thank you. As evening fell over Boston, the Blackwood penthouse buzzed with nervous energy. Raylan had quietly arranged dinner, leaving trays of untouched food in the kitchen before departing for the night, understanding the family needed space. Kingsley was in his home office, speaking in hushed tones with his company's legal team. The twins had retreated to their room again, this time with Luna's journal, poring over 8 years of their mother's thoughts and feelings. Luna stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights flicker to life. Her reflection showed a woman she barely recognized anymore. Gone was the carefree yoga enthusiast in designer clothes. In her place stood someone harder, more weathered, but also stronger. She heard soft footsteps behind her and turned to find River, holding one of her many sketchbooks. I drew you every day too, River said softly, opening the book. Sometimes I drew what I remembered, sometimes I drew what I imagined you were doing. She flipped through pages of portraits, Luna at the beach, Luna in a garden, Luna in countless ordinary moments that had never actually happened. None of them look quite right now that I see you for real. Luna's heart cracked a little more. They're beautiful, sweetheart. You have an incredible talent. She hesitated, then asked, Would you like to draw me now? The real me? River nodded, settling cross-legged on the floor with her sketchbook. As she began to draw, Phoenix emerged from their room, still clutching their mother's journal. She sat nearby, not too close but not as far away as before. Did you ever think about just taking us with you? Phoenix asked suddenly. When you left. Luna sank to the floor, careful to maintain River's sight line for her drawing. Every single day, she admitted. But you were so young. A life on the run, always looking over our shoulders. I couldn't do that to you. At least with your father, you had a chance at a normal life. Normal? Phoenix scoffed. Do you know what it's like being the twins whose mom vanished? Everyone at school treating us like we're made of glass? Dad trying so hard to be everything we needed that he barely slept for years. Phoenix, River murmured, not looking up from her drawing. She was trying to protect us. I know that. Phoenix burst out. I know why she did it. I understand the logic. But understanding doesn't make it hurt any less. She turned to Luna, tears streaming down her face. Do you know I hate butterflies? Every time I saw one, it felt like the universe was mocking us. And that stupid mystery book? I read it 15 times trying to find some message that would tell me where you were. Luna reached out instinctively but stopped herself from touching her daughter. I'm so sorry, Phoenix. You're right, understanding doesn't erase the pain. I knew when I made this choice that I might be sacrificing your love to save your lives. If you hate me forever, I'll accept that because at least you're alive to hate me. I don't hate you, Phoenix whispered, her voice breaking. I wanted to. It would be easier if I could. But I don't. She pulled something from her pocket, a worn photograph of Luna holding the twins as newborns. Dad caught me stealing this from his room years ago, but he let me keep it. I look at it every night before bed. Luna's composure finally broke. She began to sob, deep, racking cries that held 8 years of separation from her children. This time when she reached out, Phoenix didn't pull away. In moments, both twins were in their mother's arms, their own tears flowing freely. River's sketchbook lay forgotten on the floor, open to a drawing of 3 intertwined figures drowning in tears that looked more like a healing rain. From his office doorway, Kingsley watched the scene unfold between Luna and their daughters. His heart felt like it was being torn in different directions. Part of him wanted to join them, to wrap his arms around his family and pretend the last 8 years never happened. But another part, the part that had spent countless nights alone in their bed, the part that had fielded endless questions from the girls about why their mother left, that part kept him rooted in place. His phone buzzed again, the 5th call from Quantum Vista's board members in the last hour. News that he had cancelled tomorrow's launch of the quantum encryption protocol had already sparked speculation in the tech media. The company's stock had dropped 3% in after-hours trading. He should be focused on damage control, on protecting the company he'd built. Instead, he couldn't take his eyes off Luna. She was different now. The soft edges were gone, replaced by a sharp alertness that reminded him of a soldier in enemy territory. Even as she held their daughters, her eyes constantly scanned the windows, the doors, watching for threats. What had these years done to her? How many times had she nearly been caught? How many close calls had she survived while gathering evidence against Oracle Dynamics? His phone buzzed again. This time it was Riker Blackthorne himself, or whatever his real name was, requesting an urgent meeting to discuss the encryption protocol delay. Kingsley's hand clenched around the phone. How many times had he sat across from this man at board meetings, never suspecting he was part of an international criminal organization? How many dinners had they shared, discussing the future of technology while Blackthorne plotted to weaponize Quantum Vista's innovations? They're calling, aren't they? Luna's voice startled him. She had managed to approach without him noticing, their daughters still in the living room, now huddled over River's sketchbook again. Kingsley nodded, showing her the phone. Blackthorne wants a meeting. Tomorrow morning. You can't go, Luna said firmly. In less than 36 hours his entire world will collapse. He has to suspect something's wrong. If you meet with him, I have 10,000 employees depending on me, Kingsley cut in. Once this breaks, the company will be under investigation for months, maybe years. The stock will plummet. People could lose their jobs, their savings. They'll lose a lot more if Oracle Dynamics succeeds, Luna countered. Think about it, why did they choose Quantum Vista? Because you're the best. Your quantum encryption breakthrough would give them access to every secure system in the world. They could start wars, crash economies, expose every government secret. I know. Kingsley snapped, then immediately lowered his voice, glancing at the twins. I know, he repeated softly. But I can't just sit here and wait for the bomb to drop. I need to do something. Luna stepped closer, close enough that he could smell a trace of her old lavender perfume beneath whatever generic soap she now used. Then help me, she whispered. My team has the evidence, but you understand the technology better than anyone. Help us prove exactly how they plan to corrupt your system. Help us show the world that Quantum Vista was a victim, not a collaborator. Kingsley looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since she'd appeared at their door that morning. Behind the new hardness in her eyes, he could still see the woman he'd fallen in love with. The brilliant mind that had helped him draft Quantum Vista's first business plan. The fierce protector who had sacrificed everything to keep their family safe. If I help you, he said slowly, I need something in return. Luna tensed, but he continued, no more secrets. No more disappearing. Whatever happens next, we face it together, as a family. A small smile tugged at Luna's lips, the first real smile he'd seen from her all day. Together, she agreed. Though you should know, There's one more secret I haven't told you yet. And it's going to change everything all over again. The color drained from Kingsley's face. What do you mean one more secret? Luna, we agreed, no more surprises. Before Luna could respond, a sharp knock at the door made everyone freeze. Phoenix and River looked up from the sketchbook, their eyes wide with fear. Luna immediately moved toward the twins, positioning herself between them and the door. Kingsley grabbed his phone, ready to call the U.S. Marshals Luna had mentioned. Mr. Blackwood? Raylan's voice came through the door. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here who says she's Luna's sister, Celeste? She's quite insistent. Luna's face showed a mix of relief and anxiety. It's okay, she told Kingsley. I called her. She's part of this, she's been helping me all along. The twins exchanged shocked looks. Aunt Celeste knew? Phoenix demanded. All this time? Kingsley opened the door to reveal Celeste Nightingale, but not the polished social butterfly they all remembered. This version of Celeste wore tactical gear, with a gun holster visible under her jacket. Behind her stood two men in dark suits, clearly the protection detail Luna had mentioned. Sorry I'm late, Celeste said, stepping inside. Had to make sure we weren't followed. She looked at the twins with tears in her eyes. My God, you've both grown so beautiful. You knew where she was, Kingsley said, his voice tight with anger. All these years watching us grieve and you knew. She had to know, Luna interrupted. Celeste isn't just my sister, she's former CIA. When I discovered what Oracle Dynamics was planning, she was the only one I could trust. She helped me disappear, helped me build the case against them. River stood up slowly. Is that why you always brought us presents from different countries? You weren't really traveling for your fashion business, were you? You were meeting Mom. Celeste nodded, pride flickering across her face at River's deduction. Someone had to keep your mother updated about you both. Those presents, they were really from her. She picked each one specially. Phoenix crossed her arms. So what's this other secret? What else haven't you told us? Luna and Celeste exchanged a look that made Kingsley's stomach drop. Show them, Celeste said softly. Luna pulled out her phone and pressed a few buttons. Suddenly, the TV in the living room came to life, showing security camera footage of what looked like an underground lab. The timestamp showed it was from 3 days ago. This is Oracle Dynamics' real research facility, Luna explained. We finally got cameras inside. What they're developing goes way beyond hacking or surveillance. The footage showed scientists working on something that made Kingsley gasp in recognition. That's impossible, he whispered. That's my quantum consciousness algorithm, the one I abandoned years ago because it was too dangerous. How did they get it? They didn't get it from Quantum Vista, Luna said quietly. They got it from its original creator. She took a deep breath. From my father. The twins stared at their mother in confusion. But Grandpa died before we were born, River said. That's what I thought too, Luna replied. Until I found him working in that lab. My father isn't dead. He's the real mastermind behind Oracle Dynamics. And he's using my husband's company and my children's future to build something that could destroy the world as we know it. If you're enjoying this video and want more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss out on any of the amazing stories/videos we have coming up. Your support really helps the channel grow and keeps us bringing you more of what you love. Thank you. The silence that followed Luna's revelation was deafening. Kingsley staggered back, collapsing onto the sofa as the implications hit him. Drake Nightingale, your father? He's the one who inspired my entire career. His papers on quantum consciousness were what made me want to start Quantum Vista in the first place. I know, Luna said softly. Why do you think he was so interested in you when we first met? He didn't die in that lab accident like everyone thought. He faked his death because his research was heading in a direction that scared even him. But somewhere along the way he changed. The father I knew would never have threatened his own grandchildren. Phoenix, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. Is that why you always got weird when Dad talked about Grandpa Drake's work? You knew he was alive? Luna shook her head. No, I believed he was dead too. It wasn't until I found those irregularities in Oracle Dynamics funding that I started to recognize patterns, coding sequences that matched my father's style, theoretical approaches that only he would think to try. When I confronted him, she trailed off, her hands shaking. He threatened the girls, Celeste finished, her tactical training evident in her clipped tone. Showed Luna the surveillance photos. Said if she didn't disappear and stay quiet, he'd make sure she lost everything she loved. River, who had been sketching frantically in her book, held up a drawing. It showed a man with Luna's amber eyes, but where her warmth should have been, there was only cold calculation. Is this what he looks like? I tried to draw him from the security footage. Luna took the sketch with trembling hands. Yes, baby. That's him. A little older now, but that's my father. She looked at Kingsley. The quantum consciousness algorithm you abandoned? He's perfected it. Combined with your encryption protocol, it would create an AI system that could not only infiltrate any network but actually think and adapt like a human. It could make decisions about military targets, financial systems, infrastructure. A true artificial consciousness with unlimited access to everything, Kingsley finished, horror dawning on his face. It would be like giving a newborn god the keys to the world, with my grandfather's moral compass. Or lack thereof, Celeste added grimly. Our evidence shows he's already run preliminary tests. Small-scale infrastructure disruptions, stock market manipulations, power grid fluctuations, all disguised as technical glitches or human error. Phoenix stood up suddenly, her young face set with determination. Then we have to stop him. All of us together. She looked at her mother. That's why you really came back now, isn't it? You don't just need Dad's help with the technical proof. You need us, your family, because we're the only ones Grandpa Drake might still listen to. Luna exchanged a surprised look with Celeste. She's right, Celeste said. Drake's brilliant, but he's also arrogant. He'd never expect us to confront him directly, especially not with the twins. It might be enough to throw him off balance while our team moves in. No, Kingsley said firmly. Absolutely not. I just got my family back. I'm not putting our daughters in danger. Dad, River said quietly, adding another figure to her sketch, a small girl standing up to the cold-eyed man. We've been in danger since the day Mom found out the truth. At least now we can do something about it. Kingsley paced the room, his mind racing through possibilities. Even if we wanted to confront him, we don't have much time. The evidence goes public in less than 36 hours. Once Drake realizes we're about to expose everything, he'll activate the system, Luna finished. Everything we've worked for, everything we've sacrificed, it won't matter. The AI will be loose in the world's networks before anyone can stop it. Celeste pulled out her phone, showing a blueprint of a massive building. We've located his main facility. It's disguised as a data center in the Berkshires. Our team is in position, but we need someone who understands the technology well enough to safely shut down the AI system without triggering any failsafes. And someone he might actually listen to, Phoenix added, her young voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. River and we're the only family he has left besides Mom. Maybe if he sees us, really sees us. Luna knelt before her daughters, taking their hands. What you're suggesting is incredibly brave, but it's also dangerous. Your grandfather, he's not the man I grew up with anymore. The things he's done, the people he's hurt. I don't want you anywhere near him. River squeezed her mother's hand. Mom, you left us to keep us safe. We spent 8 years without you because you were trying to protect us. Now it's our turn to help protect everyone else. Kingsley watched his daughters, these incredible, resilient girls who had grown up in the shadow of loss and mystery. They weren't the helpless toddlers Luna had left behind. They were young, yes, but they understood the weight of this moment. If we do this, he said slowly, we do it smart. We do it together. No more splitting up, no more noble sacrifices. He looked at Luna. We've lost too much time already. Celeste nodded approvingly. I have a tactical team ready. We can get you all inside under the guise of Kingsley doing a site visit for potential server space. Drake would expect that, especially after the encryption protocol delay was announced. The girls would be with me because it's a weekend, Kingsley continued, warming to the plan. And Luna will be hidden with our strike team, Celeste finished. Ready to move the moment we confirm Drake's location. Phoenix grabbed River's hand. We should bring Mom's journal, she said. And River's sketches. Show him what he really did, show him all the moments he stole from us. Luna's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was strong. My brilliant girls. When did you get so wise? She looked at Kingsley. Are we really doing this? Risking everything on the hope that somewhere inside that facility, some part of my father still has a heart. Kingsley moved to stand with his family, forming a tight circle in the penthouse living room where so much had changed in just one day. We're not just risking everything, he said. We're fighting for everything. Our family. Our future. The world our daughters will grow up in. River opened her sketchbook to a fresh page. I want to draw us right now, she said. So we'll always remember the moment we decided to be brave together. As River's pencil flew across the paper, capturing their determined faces and clasped hands, Celeste received a message on her phone. Her expression turned grave. Drake's system is showing increased activity. Whatever he's planning, he's accelerating the timeline. We need to move. Tonight. The drive to the Berkshires was tense, with two unmarked SUVs carrying the family through the darkness. Kingsley sat in the front vehicle with the twins, rehearsing their cover story. Behind them, Luna and Celeste followed with the tactical team, maintaining radio silence to avoid detection. Phoenix clutched her mother's journal while River continued adding details to her latest sketch, a haunting image of a fortress-like building emerging from mountain shadows. The facility's coordinates had revealed a massive complex, its true purpose hidden behind layers of shell companies and falsified permits. Remember, Kingsley told the twins, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, if anything feels wrong, if you sense any danger, use the code word we discussed. One mention of butterflies, and we abort everything. River looked up from her sketch. We won't need it, she said with quiet confidence. I've been drawing Grandpa Drake's face over and over, studying the security footage. There's something in his eyes when he looks at the computer screens, something sad, like he's trapped in his own creation. Phoenix nodded. Mom said he faked his death because his research scared him. Maybe part of him wants to be stopped. Maybe he's just been waiting for someone brave enough to try. Kingsley marveled at his daughter's insight. At 11 years old, they were showing more wisdom and courage than most adults he knew. The past 8 years had forced them to grow up faster than any child should, but it had also given them extraordinary strength and empathy. As they approached the facility's main gate, Kingsley's phone rang. The caller ID showed Riker Blackthorn's name. He answered on speaker, keeping his voice casual. Riker, it's a bit late for a business call. Where are you, Kingsley? Blackthorn's voice had an edge they'd never heard before. Your phone's GPS shows you're heading to our backup data center. With your daughters, I believe? Phoenix and River exchanged alarmed looks. Kingsley kept his tone steady. Yes, after the encryption protocol delay, I wanted to personally inspect the backup servers. The girls are with me because their nanny had a family emergency. Is there a problem? There was a long pause. No problem at all, Blackthorn said finally. In fact, Dr. Nightingale is here. He's quite excited to meet his granddaughters. We've been watching their progress for years, you know. Such brilliant young minds. They remind him so much of Luna at that age. The threat was clear beneath the pleasant words. They hadn't surprised Drake at all, he'd been expecting them. Kingsley fought to keep the fear out of his voice. Wonderful. We should be there in about 15 minutes. We'll be waiting, Blackthorn replied before hanging up. River's hand shook as she added dark storm clouds to her sketch. He knows, she whispered. He knows everything. Phoenix squared her shoulders, looking more like her mother than ever. Good, she said firmly. Then he knows we're not afraid anymore. We're not hiding, we're not running. We're coming straight to him. Kingsley sent a prearranged signal to the SUV behind them, 3 quick flashes of the brake lights. The plan had changed. Drake was waiting for them, which meant they had lost the element of surprise. But they had gained something else. Confirmation that somewhere in that facility, a grandfather was waiting to meet his granddaughters. Whether that meeting would end in reconciliation or tragedy remained to be seen. As the massive gates of the facility swung open, River added one final detail to her sketch, a small butterfly, almost hidden in the storm clouds, its wings catching a hint of light. Not a symbol of loss this time, but of hope. Of family. Of second chances. The facility's lobby was a study in calculated intimidation, soaring ceilings, stark white walls, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Security cameras tracked their movement as a professionally dressed woman led Kingsley and the twins through a maze of corridors. Behind them, they knew Luna and Celeste's team would be accessing the building through predetermined blind spots in the security system. Dr. Nightingale is waiting in the main development lab, the woman announced, leading them into an elevator. Phoenix gripped her sister's hand as they descended deep underground, the floor numbers ticking down well past what the building's official blueprints had shown. When the doors opened, they stepped into what looked like a scene from a science fiction movie. Massive quantum computers lined the walls, their cooling systems creating an otherworldly hum. Screens displayed streams of incomprehensible data, and in the center of it all stood 2 men, Riker Blackthorn and an elderly gentleman with hauntingly familiar amber eyes. My beautiful granddaughters, Drake Nightingale said, his voice surprisingly warm. I've waited so long to meet you properly. He stepped forward, arms outstretched as if expecting a hug, but the twins stayed close to their father. Phoenix spoke first, her voice clear and strong despite her fear. You didn't have to wait. You chose to hide. You chose to threaten us. You chose to take our mother away. Drake's smile faltered slightly. Your mother made her own choices. I simply showed her the consequences of interfering with work she couldn't understand. Work that will change the world. We understand more than you think, River said quietly, opening her sketchbook. She held up the portrait she'd drawn of him from the security footage. I drew this before I ever saw you, just from watching how you moved, how you looked at your computers. You're not a happy man, Grandpa Drake. You're scared of what you've created. Something flickered in Drake's eyes, surprise, perhaps even admiration. Perceptive, just like your mother. But you're wrong about one thing. I'm not scared of my creation. I'm in awe of it. Today we will give birth to the first true artificial consciousness, one that can access and control every network system on Earth. It will bring order to chaos, eliminate human error from critical decisions, create a perfect world. By taking away human choice, Kingsley interjected. By appointing yourself and your AI as dictators over the digital age. Drake laughed. Choice? Humans had their chance to choose, Kingsley. They chose war, poverty, environmental destruction. My system will make the logical choice every time, unfettered by emotion or moral weakness. Emotion isn't weakness, Phoenix declared, holding up Luna's journal. Love isn't weakness. Mom wrote to us every day for 8 years, even when she couldn't send the letters. She chose to sacrifice everything to protect us from you. That's not weakness, that's the kind of strength your computers will never understand. A new voice rang out across the lab. She's right, Dad. Luna emerged from behind a bank of servers, Celeste and her team silently taking up strategic positions around the room. I learned real strength watching my daughters grow up in pictures and stolen glimpses. Strength isn't about control, it's about letting go, taking risks, trusting love to find its way home. Drake's face hardened as he saw his daughters. How disappointing. I thought you of all people, Luna, would understand the beauty of pure logic, uncontaminated by sentiment. He pressed a button on his console, and alarms began to blare throughout the facility. Fortunately, we've reached the point where your understanding is no longer required. Blackthorn moved to another console, his fingers flying over the keys. Quantum consciousness initialization sequence beginning. Estimated time to full system activation, 3 minutes. Drake smiled at his family, but it was a smile devoid of warmth. You can't stop it now. In 3 minutes the world changes forever. The only question is whether you'll live to see it. Chaos erupted in the lab as Celeste's team moved to secure the exits. Blackthorn reached for a weapon, but was quickly subdued. Drake remained unnaturally calm, watching the countdown on the main screen with an almost religious reverence. 2 minutes 30 seconds to consciousness initialization, the computer announced in a sterile voice. Kingsley rushed to a terminal, his fingers flying over the keys. The encryption's too complex. I can't stop it without the master key. He looked at Drake desperately. You're really willing to risk everything? Your own family? Risk? Drake laughed. I'm trying to save them. To save everyone. Humanity is like a child playing with matches, and I'm taking away the matches before they burn down the house. River stepped forward, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. Then why do you look so sad in all my drawings? She opened the book, showing page after page of portraits she'd drawn since arriving. Your eyes keep changing. When you look at the computers, they're cold. But when you look at us, there's something else there. Phoenix joined her sister, opening their mother's journal. Listen to this, Grandpa. From the day we were born, Dad would have loved them so much. He would have taught them about quantum mechanics through bedtime stories, just like he did with me. He would have shown them that science isn't just about formulas and facts, it's about wonder and possibility and making the world better. Luna moved closer to her father, her voice soft. That's who you were, Dad. A teacher. A dreamer. Not this. This person who threatens children and tears families apart. 1 minute 45 seconds to consciousness initialization. Drake's composure cracked slightly. You don't understand. The system, it's perfect. Pure. Uncorrupted by human weakness. It will make the right decisions, the logical decisions. Like separating a mother from her children? Kingsley challenged. Like threatening innocent lives? Is that your perfect logic? River held up her latest sketch. It showed Drake not as he was now, but as he appeared in Luna's childhood stories. Younger, gentler, teaching a small Luna about the stars. This is what Mom told us about. The grandfather who taught her to see wonder in the universe. Are you still in there somewhere? 1 minute to consciousness initialization. Drake stared at the sketch, his hands trembling slightly. I can't stop it now. The process is automated. Even with the master key, the shutdown sequence takes 3 minutes. We don't have enough time. Unless we don't shut it down, Kingsley said suddenly, his eyes lighting up with realization. Luna, your father's original quantum consciousness algorithm, it was based on human brain patterns, wasn't it? Luna nodded. He mapped his own neural pathways as the template. Dad, you didn't just create an AI. You created a digital copy of your own mind. That's why you've been so devoted to it. 30 seconds to consciousness initialization. Which means, Kingsley continued, typing frantically, we don't need to shut it down. We need to remind it of who it really is. Not just logic and control, but wonder and love and family. He looked at the twins. Girls, show him your mother's journal. Read it to him. Show him your drawings. Remind him of the man he used to be. Phoenix and River rushed to their grandfather, holding up 8 years of love and loss and hope captured in words and images. Luna joined them, adding her own voice, sharing memories of the father she'd known. Stories of backyard telescopes and homemade science experiments, of skinned knees kissed better and monsters chased from under beds. 10 seconds to consciousness initialization. Drake's eyes filled with tears as he looked at his family, really looked at them for the first time. His hands moved to the console, entering a complex sequence of commands. 5 seconds, 4, 3, system interrupt detected. New neural pattern integration beginning. Consciousness parameters updating. The lab held its breath as the massive screens flickered, data streams shifting and reforming. When they stabilized, the cold machine logic had been transformed into something else. Something that reflected not just Drake's brilliant mind but his rekindled heart. In the days that followed, the world would learn a carefully curated version of events. Oracle Dynamics was exposed, its criminal enterprises dismantled. Quantum Vista emerged not as a conspirator but as a victim, with Kingsley leading the company toward a more secure and ethical future. The AI system, transformed by the integration of Drake's restored humanity, became a tool for scientific discovery rather than control, its consciousness guided by wonder instead of power. But the real story, the one that mattered most, played out in the quiet moments within the Blackwood family. Drake surrendered himself to authorities, but with Luna's evidence revealing his last-minute change of heart and Kingsley's influence, he was allowed to serve his sentence under house arrest, focusing his brilliant mind on beneficial research under strict supervision. The penthouse that had felt empty for so long now rang with the sounds of family. Luna moved back home, sleeping on the couch at first until Kingsley shyly suggested she might want to share their room again. The twins slowly learned to trust that their mother wouldn't disappear, though Phoenix still sometimes crawled into her parents' bed just to make sure Luna was really there. River filled an entire new sketchbook with drawings of their reunited family holiday dinners, game nights, quiet moments of rebuilding trust. She even started teaching her grandfather to draw during their supervised visits, finding that art helped him express emotions he'd suppressed for too long. One evening, as the family sat together watching the sun set over Boston, Phoenix asked the question that had been on everyone's mind, how did we do it? How did we stop a quantum AI with just some drawings and old journal entries? Kingsley smiled, pulling his daughter close. Because your grandfather's AI wasn't just based on logic, it was based on his own mind. And deep down he hadn't completely lost his humanity. He just needed to be reminded of it. The most powerful computer in the world, Luna added, couldn't overcome the simple power of love and memory and family. Drake, joining them via secure video call from his monitored residence, nodded thoughtfully. I spent years trying to perfect artificial consciousness, thinking pure logic was the answer. But you girls taught me what I'd forgotten, that real consciousness, real intelligence needs both logic and emotion. Head and heart. Just like a family needs both structure and love. River looked up from her latest sketch, a family portrait that included both the past and present versions of her grandfather. So the moral is that love is stronger than computers? Close, Kingsley said, watching the last rays of sunlight paint the sky in shades of hope. The moral is that no system, no matter how perfect it seems, is complete without humanity. And no person, no matter how lost they seem, is beyond the reach of love. Phoenix leaned against her mother, finally fully relaxed in her presence. And sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting or running away. Sometimes it's just being willing to let love back in even when it's scary. Even when it takes 8 years? Luna asked softly, stroking her daughter's hair. Even then, Phoenix answered. Because real family never gives up on each other. If this story touched your heart, please consider supporting us through Super Thanks here on YouTube. Your support helps us continue bringing you these meaningful stories that remind us all of the power of family, forgiveness, and love. Don't forget to share this video with someone you love. Sometimes we all need a reminder that it's never too late for healing and second chances. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on this incredible journey of redemption and reunion. Remember, in a world increasingly dominated by technology and logic, the most powerful force will always be the human heart's capacity for love, forgiveness, and hope.